Judge!
Hello and welcome to the Cinema Judge. For all my judge heads out there, welcome back. Now, if you're a first-time listener, let me briefly tell you what the show's about. I love movies. I like sharing movies. That's what we do here. I give you the evidence, and you make up your own mind if you want to see this movie or not. I'm not going to sit here and yell at movies, yell at actors, any of those things. All I care about is giving you information so you can make up your own mind. I just want you to have the information because I love talking movies. That's what we do here. Consider us your movie oasis because there's a lot of noise out there. Let's just talk movies. Get away from it all because like I always say, any movie is somebody's favorite movie. Now, before I get to the episode, I just have to thank a couple people really quick and I'll be right on to the show. So I want to first thank Orion at Lakeville, Tristan, Logan, Jacob, and Mariah. All you guys, I so enjoyed talking to you guys today. You guys were just fun to deal with, talking movies. It was a great time, and I really appreciate that you guys are as passionate about movies as I am. It was so great. I also want to thank Mike. I talk to you every Thursday. I appreciate the time. It's always a blast. And I want to thank Ezra. Thanks for always listening. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks a ton. And Kirsten, hope you're doing well. I have some movies stuff I want to tell you about. Drop me a line. cinemajudge@hotmail.com. But now we have what you've been waiting for. Top Gun Maverick. I loved this movie. But here is the trailer for Top Gun Maverick.
What do we have here? God, here I thought we were special.
Fellas, this here's Bagman.
Hangman.
Whatever.
What the hell kind of mission is this?
Everyone here is the best there is. Who the hell are they gonna get to teach us?
Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell. Let me be perfectly blunt. You are not my first choice. You are here at the request of Admiral Kosinski, a.k.a. Iceman. He seems to think that you have something left to offer the Navy. What that is, I can't imagine.
With all due respect, sir, I'm not a teacher. Just want to manage expectations.
What the hell? Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking.
And we're off.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
We're going into combat on a level no living pilot's ever seen. Not even him.
You think up there you're dead. Believe me.
My dad believed in you. I'm not gonna make the same mistake.
Someone's not coming back from this.
Those are your pilots. Anything happens to them.
Smoke in the air! Smoke in the air!
You'll never forgive yourself.
No turning back now.
Come on!
Having any fun yet?
Just those subtle notes just makes you know what movie you're going to see and know what to expect. It's just songs like that that you know you're going to have an event. And that's what this movie is. And it's helmed by Joseph Kosinski. You might have seen his movie, the 2013 film Oblivion, which also starred Tom Cruise. And they work so well together. Now, in this next interview, he talks about the shooting process because there is a whole lot involved in making this film. And he just talks a little bit about that.
First of all, we're capturing it in a way that no film has ever done before. We are working with the greatest pilots in the world, Top Gun pilots, to actually fly these sequences for us. We spent hours. I spent hours with these pilots going through the choreography of every scene to make sure that it's technically accurate. Very exciting. We're using tools that no one's used before, including a fighter jet that has a camera mounted on the nose of it to shoot our air-to-air sequences. We're using very high-tech tools, but we're using them in a kind of old school way.
And that's what's so cool. It's very practical. It's not all this special stuff. It's high-tech, but it's still practical filmmaking. And up next, you're going to hear from Jerry Bruckheimer, the master producer. I mean, this guy, look at his record. But I just want to say one thing real quick, and this won't ruin anything for you. But this movie has a lot of special elements. In the very beginning, there's a very classy thing that happens. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I felt it was pretty darn classy. But within that same vein, the opening sequence, you remember the original Top Gun, right? Well, that is shot almost identical to the original, but with newer planes. But that's not, I mean, that's great. But the part that got me was when they showed the production or produced by, or, when they show you the thing of blah, 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 made by Don Simpson / Jerry Bruckheimer production. That's what this original was. Those two mega producers worked so many movies with such awesomeness. And seeing Don Simpson's name up there with Bruckheimer, I got goosebumps. I'm like, oh man, I remember seeing that all the time. And then sadly, Don Simpson, passed away many years ago, and Bruckheimer just carried a torch. But seeing Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer production, I was like, yes, the original intro, but with an upgrade. But it was just a personal thing as a movie buff to see that. But up next, you're going to hear from Jerry Bruckheimer, also talking about the whole filming process.
It's amazing what we see in the cockpit and what an audience is going to experience. You're going to experience what it's really like to be a pilot, a fighter pilot, a Top Gun pilot. It's so exciting for me to watch this, and you see this aerial footage, which is spectacular looking, and it's such speed. It looks almost unreal, and it's real. It's the real thing. Besides the 6 cameras in the cockpit, we're doing air-to-air, so where you have one jet filming the other jet. Then we have ground-to-air, so we have cameras on the ground filming these jets that are coming terribly close to them on the ground. And it's how close, even in the air, how our camera ship gets close to these monstrous planes that are flying, at 600, 700 miles an hour. So I think that's pretty exciting. What's so exciting about it, we have their best pilots working with us. We have the real Top Gun pilots. They've all been in combat. They're just fantastic individuals, and you have no idea what you go through before a flight. They have 3-hour briefings before a flight where Tom actually is coordinating and choreographing all the flights. So he's working with their aviators, and they're designing what they're going to do. So Tom's right in the middle of this and doing everything just like an aviator would do it.
I don't think there's anybody out there in Hollywood who's as focused, dedicated, determined to bring the best product to the screen. When it comes to action films or whatever Tom Cruise is in, he dives headlong in. He's detail-orientated. He learns everything. He's a teacher. He developed a training thing for all these actors so it could be real, that you'll see them on the screen and it's not going to be some forced, contrived situation. So what he did to make this movie happen is mind-boggling, but so impressive. And I can't say enough about the guy. I mean, who gives that much? I mean, he put his life on the line. He does that for every movie, and this one just raised that level even more. He flies these planes himself, really flies them. The other actors, of course, they can't. They're just like in the back seat, and they have cameras on them. But he is actually flying the plane. It's just mind-blowing. It's really kind of incredible how the insurance companies go, yeah, we'll allow that. But hey, when you can produce the product that he can, you get a lot of leeway. But up next, we're going to hear from the director, and he talks briefly about when he approached Tom first in 2017 about the script, and it really had to be an emotional story, but they wanted to make it practical shooting, and they accomplished both that. And immediately after that interview, I'm gonna play a featurette, and in that featurette, they're gonna talk about that whole process about shooting, real time, real planes. It's a really great featurette. So at the end of the show, I'm gonna give you the address if you want to watch the TV version of it, because quite honestly, the footage they provide is really spectacular. Well, here is the director.
When I approached Tom in 2017 with kind of my take on the movie, I knew there were two requirements. One, the story had to be deeply emotional. And number two, the film had to be shot practically. So I knew those were two essential elements to Tom, and that's what we're doing.
Viper 1 ready. Maverick to range control, stand by. All right, 3, 2, 1.
After 34 years, Tom Cruise returns as Maverick. This is a competition film about family, friendship, and sacrifice. It's a love letter to aviation. We're going to show you what it's really like to be a Top Gun pilot.
You just can't create this kind of experience unless you shoot it live. In order for us to accomplish this, we have the greatest fighter pilots in the world working with us.
We're working with a brand new camera system that allows us to put 6 IMAX quality cameras inside the cockpit with the actors.
Verify cameras are on. Check cameras on. There you go.
It's amazing what we see in the cockpit and what an audience is going to experience.
Just a little higher. That's perfect. Great camera position.
Thanks to Tom, all the actors are becoming accustomed to the G-forces by all the training that they're doing.
It is aggressive. You can't act that. The distortion in the face. They're pulling 7.5 HGs. That's 1,600 pounds of force. I am so proud of them and what they've done. And it is heavy duty.
All right. I'm okay.
Putting us up in these jets, it's very serious. That's why everybody thought it would be impossible. And I think when Tom hears that something's impossible or it can't be done, that's when he gets to work.
It'll work out. That's what I'm talking about.
Flying one of these fighter jets is an absolute thrill ride. We want to make sure that the audience has the same experience.
3, 2, 1. Turn it.
Aviation film like this has never been done, and chances are will never be done again.
We're going to hear next from the writer of this film, Christopher McQuarrie. He's written a lot of great stuff, but for most of us out there, I only have to mention one movie, The Usual Suspects. That alone sells you on this guy's abilities. He's done, a lot more. He did Valkyrie, The Way of the Gun, wrote some episodes for NYPD Blue, Jack Reacher, Edge of Tomorrow, which is a great movie. If you've never seen that movie, check out that movie. There's rumors, there might be a sequel. Fingers crossed. And I could go on and on. He is a great writer. And in this interview, he talks about how, for him and Tom, they just wanted to make a good story. And I'm going to truly tell you this. Not only does this movie have great action, yes, but it actually has a story to go with it just as strong. Because at first, sometimes you're thinking, all right, just another action type thing, what have you. That's furthest from the truth. It actually has a solid story, and this is him talking about that.
I wasn't interested in trying to recreate or recapture any of the magic of the original film, so much of which had to do with the time in which it was released, the music that was popular in the day, the technology that was there, and who Tom Cruise was as an actor and a star as compared to who he is now. More than anything, I just wanted to be part of a really good story. And that's all Tom and I focused on from the very moment that I came on board. What is the story and why do I care? And we were challenged every day to not focus on the original film, to not be daunted by it and overwhelmed by it. And much in the way that Goose is a spirit that looms over Maverick, the original Top Gun was a spirit looming over us. We knew that we owed fans of the film a film that was just as good, if not better. But we also knew that the film we were making had to stand alone. And I think what we ended up with was a film that both honors and compliments and elevates the original film.
Now, coming up next, I'm going to play 3 interviews back to back so I just don't interrupt the flow. We're first going to hear from Tommy Harper, a producer, and then we go to the writer, and then the director, and they're going to talk about the script and where the character is now. It first starts off with the producer talking about, we didn't want to make him 30 years old. No, we wanted to make Maverick where he is now. And then the other interviews talk about how he's dealing with the emotions of what's happened in the past and how Goose, from the original film, permeates the whole film. But they do it in such a great way. It's not like it's not forced. It's not contrived. It's just really good how they really do intertwine his life. And this is just them explaining it to you. It's really, really good stuff. Check it out.
We knew we wanted Maverick to be Maverick of today and the proper age of Maverick today. We had no intention of making Maverick, 30 years old or anything like that. We wanted, where are we now in the story? And that was rule number 1 for us and rule number 1 for Joe and Tom. But also, where do we leave Maverick and what's been happening in his life? What has he been doing for 34 years? So I think we came to a great storyline of where has he been, and also what has he been dealing with for all of these years after his best friend died.
Goose permeates just about every frame of this film. He's a character that everybody loved from the first movie, Maverick especially, and obviously his son Bradley, aka Rooster, is a very important character in the film. And it was a real challenge because, again, we didn't want to take audiences out of the movie and ask them to remember another film. So we had to reintroduce Goose as a character. We had to reintroduce him as a spirit in the story. And that very much came through, even down to the line, "Talk to me, Goose." The decision of whether or not to use that line, and whether to play with that as the reference to the film.
Well, it's all about finding the right story. The first film was a rite of passage story for Maverick, and I felt like this film also needed to be a rite of passage story. Obviously, Maverick's in a different point of his life, but the kind of fundamental relationship in our film is between Maverick and Rooster, played by Miles Teller, who is Goose's son. And to me, the reuniting or reconciliation of these 2 characters really formed the emotional spine of this story and really gave, I think, all of us the confidence that this was the right story and now is the time to tell it.
Now, speaking of Rooster, played by Miles Teller, now you know him from the movie Whiplash in 2014, but he's also in the TV show right now, The Offer. And if you really want to watch a great TV show, The Offer is really unique. It's the making of, or not the making of, but how they went along making The Godfather. It is a fantastic series. If you have ever a chance, check out The Offer. But in this next interviews, Miles Teller talks about joining this movie, about how iconic it is and how just being part of it is so wonderful. And he also talks a little bit about Maverick's character.
I think any time that you are kind of stepping into which I guess now is kind of becoming a franchise or kind of carrying the torch and continuing the legacy of something that made such an impact and continues to make an impact, not just cinematically, but also culturally. I can't tell you how many dudes were, the aviators and, still talk about Goose and Maverick and, quote the movie. So it's not like the movie ever died, and to be able to kind of re-energize it in a way and continue that story has been a really incredible journey for me. I think Maverick kind of, plays by his own rules. I think that it's, Tom, which he has done kind of time and time again, created an iconic character. And yeah, I mean, it's almost when you say the word Maverick, that's kind of what you think of. You don't necessarily go to the literal meaning of the word. You go to, Tom's character, and he does. He is a Maverick. He does what he wants to do. He's aggressive. And yeah, he kind of marches to the beat of his own drum.
We have a really great interview coming up next. It's from the writer Christopher McQuarrie, and I love hearing about the process of writing, how it evolves, how it changes from the editing while you're shooting beforehand. And it's really neat to get inside these people's heads, because a lot of times we think, okay, they just write the script and ta-da, it's done. But if you really want to make a quality script, it's always evolving, always changing. And, I just love hearing about it.
During the writing of the film, also during the shooting and in the editing of the film, we found ourselves time and again leaning towards recreating moments of the film, leaning towards as opposed to creating new ground. And we found time and again that the more we let go of the original movie and went in our own direction, the film became much more true. And that there really was the possibility to make something that stood alone. It was very important to Tom and I when we would talk about Top Gun that you didn't have to see the original movie in order to enjoy this one.
I'm going to play a few more interviews for you back to back, because they're all talking about what they had to learn to make this movie happen. In the program Tom Cruise created for these actors through the Navy. I mean, how cool is that? Tom Cruise went to the Navy and said, I have this program to help train these guys so they could be in the plane so it looks real. It's so incredible. So first we're going to hear from the director, then Miles Teller, and then the producer, and then back to Teller. And they're just, again, talking about all they had to do to make all this stuff be real. And then we're going to go right into a featurette. In that featurette, they have tons of footage and then, of course, audio so we could hear it. But they go into depth about all the training these guys had to go through. It's really cool.
The second thing we had to do was get the cast trained to actually be in a Navy airplane. So they had to go through the Navy training course to be qualified to sit in an F-18, be prepared to eject, to deploy a parachute, to swim in the ocean if they happen to land in there. So they had to go through all that training. Then Tom created a training program for them that took them from Cessnas, which is kind of a small propeller-driven aircraft, into an aerobatic airplane called an Extra 300, into an L-39, which is a small jet, aerobatic jet, and then eventually getting them into F-18s, because they need to have the physical stamina to endure the intense forces on their body while doing some of these maneuvers.
Tom created an aviation program for us for, I think, for him and for ourselves and everybody to feel comfortable putting us up in these jets, because it's very serious. What we're doing. It's actually, no civilians ever have the amount of hours that we have in these jets. It's just, that's why everybody thought it would be impossible. And I think when Tom hears that something's impossible or it can't be done, that's when he kind of gets to work. So he created our flight training program, and we started out in the Cessna, and then we went to the Extra 300 to do our aerobatics training, went to the L-39 to get some jet work, and then hopped in the F-18s.
So our cast training program was a long time in the making, and we learned a lot along the way. And Tom and I started having phone calls very early on, hours at a time, developing a program that eventually became our cast training program. I did not understand it. Joe did not understand it. Tom is an aviator. Tom understood flying. Tom understood the planes. Tom understood what the actors would be doing in the plane and how they would have to properly train to do what they needed to do in the plane. We interviewed them and told them exactly what things were going to be like, and explained to them what they would be feeling in the air. So having Tom help and develop the training program was priceless. I mean, we wouldn't be doing anything we were doing on the film if that did not happen.
I know Tom didn't want it to be any green screen. He wanted all the actors to be in the jets. And that's something we signed up for. I don't think any of us really knew how tough that would be, myself included. And we started out in the Cessna, and then we went to the Extra 300, which was kind of doing all the aerobatics maneuvers. We also had to get all of this swim training going on because we had to be certified to fly over water in case we had to eject. So we had to have all of this survival training, which was very intense. You get blindfolded, strapped to a chair, in a dunker. Water fills up, they submerge you, spin you upside down. You're strapped in, blindfolded upside down, you gotta get out.
We are cleared into the area. Verify cameras are on. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Here comes some G's. There's 5 G's.
6 G's.
7 G's.
All right, that was awesome.
I wasn't ready to make a sequel until we had a special story worthy of a sequel, and until technology evolved so we could delve deeper into the experience of a fighter pilot.
The first movie became something that changed a generation. So this is exciting to come back and get in those jets again.
We worked with the Navy and the Top Gun school to formulate how to shoot it practically. Because if we're going to do it, we're going to fly in the F-18s.
The aviation sequences had to be real. So our actors went through 3 months of grueling training.
The Navy says if you eject, you have to be able to survive in the water. So we had to go through that challenging underwater program.
It's intense. You're flipped inverted, and you're having to try and get out.
From there, Tom designed this all-encompassing aviation training for all the actors.
I started them out in a single-engine airplane to build up their spatial awareness inside the aircraft.
Oh, wow. That's amazing! Oh, my God!
Next, we took them to the L-39, and they went and flew aerobatics to feel what it's like in a jet.
Get some speed. Wow.
From there, they'd graduate to the F-18 Super Hornet and actually launching off an aircraft carrier.
That's what I'm talking about.
The actors also had to learn how to run the cameras because when they're up in the jet, they have to direct themselves essentially.
Okay, I'm rolling.
I had to really teach them cinematography and the lighting so that they understood what's gonna look good on camera.
Gun angle's great.
Everybody thought it would be impossible for actors to really be in the jets.
But that's the gift that Tom gave us, that by the time we got up there, we could handle it.
Definitely the most amazing thing I've ever done. All the training, 100% prepared us.
I'm very proud of what we all accomplished. Each one of them are extraordinary.
It still blows my mind that we've done this. There's nothing like it.
Miles Teller is up next, and he's going to talk about the shooting process of making us, the viewers, feel like you're in the plane with them.
I think the overall vision for the aerial sequences is to really put the audience in the box, as they say, in the cockpit. You're going to feel like you are flying with these guys, for better or worse, because we're doing some pretty hairy maneuvers. But I think, as far as story goes, when you are first person, kind of experiencing these things with these guys, I think it just adds a level of investment.
And he is not underselling that at all. When you're in the theater, you feel like you're there with them. It is incredible filmmaking, and you just, again, it's like nothing you've ever really seen before. You're there with them. Now in this next interview, you're going to hear from the writer. And I really like this interview because I could picture all these guys sitting around watching the original film, taking notes. Because that's what he talks about. I should backtrack there for a second. He talks about, before he came out of the film, he goes, everybody, we should watch the movie together and really get to feel of what it was about and what we're going to be doing. And I just find that so cool that here they are, professional big shots, but they're going to sit down and watch the original and take notes.
When I came on board the film officially, just a few weeks before they started production, I suggested that we all go back and watch the original film. We all sit down and look at it together, and we talk through the movie and try to go back to what it was watching Top Gun when it first came out, before it became the mythic film that it is now. And we discovered a very different movie. There were all the scenes that we remembered that seemed to be such a big part of the movie were actually part of a much deeper tapestry. There was an emotional film in there. There's a competition film in there. There's a film that has a great deal of humor, but it also has a great deal of drama and some tragedy.
Now, in that same vein, we're going to have the producer Tommy Harper talking next, and he's going to also talk about how long this movie's been in discussion stages, but what was very important to have: emotion, character, and just being authentic.
I think the sequel's been in the works for a very long time. I think Jerry and Tom have been talking about it for many, many years. And, it was very important for everybody to make a grounded film and something that was very tactile and not relying on a lot of CG. So our efforts were always geared towards that. And then obviously character and emotion and figuring out what that meant, because it is my first conversation with Tom when we talked on the phone. He was in the middle of shooting Mission, and he said to me, it's a competition film, and that's family, that's the emotion of it, it's about the characters, we have to remember that, and stay true to the original. So that was very we knew what our pillars were as we were starting to write the script.
Up next, we're going to hear from the director, and he's going to talk about how Tom Cruise is very close in character-like to Maverick, and also about how that character really launched him into a whole new level of fame as an actor.
I think Maverick, in some ways, is the character that made Tom a superstar. So I think for him, this film holds a very special place in his heart, knowing that it's kind of the film that kicked things off for him, kicked it off to a whole new level. I think that Maverick is very close to Tom's. Maverick and Tom have a lot of similarities in terms of their personality. They're always pushing the envelope and trying to see what they're, always pushing the envelope of what they're capable of, pushing the envelope of the machine or airplane or whatever it is that they're currently in. So it's amazing to see Tom return to that role, put that jacket on, put the sunglasses on, and see him go back into that character.
We're going to play 2 more interviews back to back. The first one is from Tommy Harper, the producer, and then Miles Teller, and they're both talking about working with Tom Cruise. And can you truly imagine that? Everything that he knows, everything he's seen, working with a guy who's a perfectionist and wants to give the best out of you and make the best movie possible.
Working with Tom, this is my 3rd film with him, and it's complete dedication when you're working on a film with him, and he makes you better. As a producer, crew member, director, whatever you're doing on the film, you want to be at an all-time high working for him, and he is great to work with. He's got it all. I mean, it's always about the story and the emotion. Working with him, as a producer, you get the opportunity to work with somebody that's the top at his craft, and you get to bounce ideas off them. And he's done more movies than all of us, and he's seen it all. So you're learning, you have a partner, and you also have the benefit of watching him as an actor. So it's pretty awesome. It's like working on the dream team.
He truly knows everything that we're going through, so he just really took the time to make sure that we were going to be good to go. And it's been great just knowing that door is always open. I could, text him or send him an email anytime I had some questions about it. And also, Tom has taught us all how to film an action sequence. That is something that when I first was watching playback of what I was doing, I would think I was doing very dynamic, interesting, intense work, and I would watch it back and it would just seem flat. So yeah, I got a master class in doing action scenes from the master.
I love this next interview from Jerry Bruckheimer. I mean, Jerry Bruckheimer, he's the king of all things producing of movies. And he's going to talk about, for him, how it's like deja vu coming back, working with him, and him being Tom Cruise. And I like the little tidbit that he talks about that, at the time they were producing a big movie, but he claims right now, well, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were making a good movie, but, we didn't really know. I mean, come on. You're Bruckheimer. But it's just cool to hear him say things like that anyway.
It's real deja vu for me to come back and make this movie with an iconic actor. And we had such a great time the first time. But the difference the first time is we didn't know what we were making. We had no clue. We knew we were making a good movie. But this movie took off all around the world. I mean, Tom tells stories where he's in Africa in the jungles and kids will walk up to him and say, Maverick, Maverick. So this is all exciting stuff to come back and be Maverick again at a different phase in his life and actually be a teacher working with these young pilots.
Producer Tommy Harper is up next, and he talks about how working with Jerry Bruckheimer as a co-producing participant is like a dream come true. And I mean, honestly, just imagine that. You are playing in a sandbox with the biggest of bigs, and you're working on the same project. That must be just mind-blowing.
Having Jerry Bruckheimer as your producing partner on a film is, it's a dream. You can never ask for more. I mean, Jerry has seen it all. Jerry has done a lot of movies. He's seen every situation. He knows how to handle them. He is very calm. He's very respectful. He lets you do your process. He will come in and talk to you, and when he's got his points, he'll let you know. But just having Jerry as a producing partner is like the best thing ever.
Now, Jerry Bruckheimer's up next, and he's going to talk about the real-life people who really do put their lives at risk when they go out there to defend our country. And it's just really kind of cool to hear somebody on this level really have the admiration and just, like wow, for the people who do this for us.
It's a character piece. It really is. It talks about what individual in the military who's an aviator has to deal with in his life, the toll it takes on him, the kind of excellence they have to deal with the physical, the mental strains, and everything else that a pilot goes through. You have to really take your hat off to these young men and women who actually climb in these planes and protect our country.
Tommy Harper, producer's up next, and he's going to talk about how this movie is for everybody. And I completely agree with him. This movie does have it all, but it's not extreme this way or the other way. It's just a great film.
I think any movie goer on the planet will enjoy this film. I think it's naval aviation period at its finest, armed forces at its finest, because it's a film about family, it's a film about emotion, it's drama, it's competition. Those are the things, the through lines of the movie that's driving story, character. It's got a lot of great action. It's a lot of fun. It's a ride, but it's also a drama on the ground. And I think that's a lot of fun, and I think that's what translates around the world for us, because it's truly about the characters, and all of our action is in the air, which is very unique for movies of today.
Miles Teller, who plays Rooster, is up next, and he's going to talk about how this movie pretty much checks all the boxes for any moviegoer. But I got to point this out too. He nails his character as Rooster. He plays the son of Goose, and just sometimes his mannerisms, just little things that he can do, are really reminiscent of the character Goose. And so I feel he was a perfect choice for this role.
I think Top Gun Maverick checks a lot of boxes. I think, first of all, it will be entertaining. That's what you want. You want to go to a movie and be entertained. I think that this movie is very emotional. I think that it's something for all ages. I think we're representing a group of people that are, for me, I have the utmost respect for. I think it's funny. I think it's dramatic. I think it's tense. I think it's high stakes. And as far as aerial footage, we're doing something that's never been done. So it's also, it's a very visionary kind of conquest that we've went on. So I think, it's movies like this don't come along too often. So I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I think that people are in for a treat.
And you will be treated to a treat, I guarantee it. But we're going to play 2 more interviews for you. The first one's the director, just talking about how this film is going to make you feel you are there. And then right after that, you can hear from Jerry Bruckheimer.
You're going to experience aviation in a way that you've never experienced it before. You're going to be lower, faster, more thrilling. We're really working hard to provide the ultimate big screen experience.
The story worked so well the first time you fell in love with Maverick. You became part of what his life was like and how he went through his life. You became Maverick yourself as you were watching the movie. So anytime he got in jeopardy, you felt the angst and the pain that the character was playing and feeling. So I think that we're trying to establish the same kind of things with Tom again. But he's such a good actor that he conveys it in every movie that he makes. So I think it'll be pretty easy for an audience to follow his emotional journey on this movie.
And I think Jerry Bruckheimer said it perfectly. He nailed it right on the head. That character, Maverick, he's part of our DNA, the movie DNA that we have come to know for how many years since the first one. But the trick was this. How do you make a character that's really good at what he does, confident, might come off as cocky, but you still sympathize with him? That's not an easy thing to do, because so often they could fall into so many cliches, but they thread that needle. They humanize the character, which I find very enjoyable. Because sometimes in these kind of movies, you might go, yeah, you're a big shot, you could do this, you could do that, whatever it may be. But they humanize them. They did it in the first one, and they still carry on now. And I'm not going to be a spoiler king here. I'm not going to be ruining anything for you. But I like where they picked up on this one. There are so many cliches they could have walked down and just said, okay, here we go. It checks this box, check that box, whatever. Here's the movie. They didn't take the easy way out. They still made the man a functioning human being, contributing to his world. He wasn't hiding in a corner anywhere. And again, that's not going to give anything away. But I like what they did with the character. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I haven't sweat that much in a movie in a long time. And what I mean by that is the adrenaline I was feeling watching this movie. The memories that were just they were flooding all over me. From the musical notes to the visuals, everything. This movie is so well made. And what I really like about it, it was authentic. There wasn't like green screens and all the special effects. Again, I don't know if maybe there was some here and there, but the majority of this filming was done inside the cockpits. They were in those planes. The cameras were there with them. All that G's, all the stuff you see on their face, that wasn't acting. You can't act through that many G's coming through you. And I so enjoyed it. And it shows. You could feel the reality going on. Because, a lot of times we all see those movies where it's special effects, green screen, computer animated, whatever they do. They're still enjoyable. I am not criticizing that at all because those are incredible filmmakers and great actors. But in this particular film, I am so glad they didn't take the easy way out. Well, not the easy way out. I'm glad they chose to take this way instead of the other way with the green screen. You feel everything when they're flying, and it's so intoxicating. It feels like you are there. So the amount of work, the training that these people went through to make this movie happen, I salute them. The dedication it took. And just another thing, you could feel Tony Scott's fingerprints all throughout this film. If you don't know who that is, he was the original director, and we sadly lost him a few years ago. But there is so much of this film where it just feels like Tony Scott was sitting there right there with them. They didn't just go a completely different direction. I think the filmmakers were, tipping the cap to him, paying tribute to him, going, you gave us a tone to this film, and we're not going to just run away from that and create our own visual style. So many of these little notes and points in this film bring you right back to that original movie. They enhance on them, they go further with them, but you still feel it's that movie. It's just, it takes you right back, and I can't say enough about this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you do see this movie, I'd strongly suggest you see it in the theater. It'll be great when it comes out on TV, DVD, whatever you do, but seeing it in the theater, for me, was fantastic. I'm so glad I did it, and this movie is for everybody. It's not just a testosterone movie or just for guys or what have you. This is for everyone, and sharing it with everybody, it really was an experience. Because a lot of times you think, oh, they just say that about, the collective experience, but you can just feel it when you're in this film, and everybody's just enjoying it. I would go see this movie if I were you. I enjoyed it myself. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any way to improve this show, please let me know. cinemajudge@hotmail.com, because I can't grow if I don't know. Let me know what I'm doing right or wrong, or what I could do to improve the show. I value constructive feedback. I'd really appreciate it. Now, if you would like to watch the TV version of this, because as most of you know, this is first of all a TV show for Bloomington, Minnesota. I get the press kits, I put it together, and I send it to the studio. And after that, I get rid of the video, and then I make it to a podcast like this. But there are some great featurettes like you just recently heard. But when you see them, they are incredible. I would strongly recommend it. Yeah, I know, self-promotion. But if you like this movie, you like what you heard, you want to see some of this. So go to Bloomington, Minnesota's webpage, BLM as in Bloomington.mn/BTV-shows. And just type in Cinema Judge, and a bunch of shows should show up. If you listen to this like the second after this drops or the next day or two, it might not be there because it's the holiday and it might not, it won't get up there right away. But rest assured, this show will be online so you can watch these interviews, watch the clips, because there was some really good on-set footage that they provided. But now it's the fun part. Now it's shout-outs to everybody who listened to the last show. For all you around the world, I hope my voice finds you well. For all of you listening at work, at home, driving your car, whatever you're doing, wherever, whenever, or whatever you're doing, this is for you. I can't believe it. So many people, so many locations, in many locations, multiple people listened. Whether you listened to the show a couple times or you shared it with your friends, I am so grateful. If you did share it with your friends, family, or whomever, I truly tip my cap to you. Because for last week's episode, I had a lot of places with multiple listens, and I am so grateful. From the United States, Germany, United Kingdom, Hong Kong, Spain, Iran, Mexico, Canada, Hungary, Brazil, Norway, Netherlands, Israel, Portugal, Bahrain, South Africa, Philippines, France. Incredible. So many of you people are spreading the word, and I can't tell you how much that means to me. That means you like what I'm doing, you love movies, and this is where we could come and talk about movies. Forget about the outside noise, because there's a lot of noise. But we could come here and just learn about movies. And that is something I value to no end. And I'm glad you do too. St. Paul, Minnesota. Dusseldorf. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Anoka, Minnesota. Walker, Minnesota. Langdon, North Dakota. New York, New York. Charlotte, North Carolina. Los Angeles, California. Opelika, Florida. Did I say that right? Thanks, Florida. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Chicago, Illinois. London, England. North Rhine. Berlin. We based in Hesse. Tijuana, California. Jerusalem. Central and Western District. Frankfurt AM, Maine, Hesse. Every episode. Thanks, guys. Queens, New York. Madison, Wisconsin. Lisbon. Louisville, Kentucky. Edinburgh. Atlanta, Georgia. Fort Mill, South Carolina. Wilmington, North Carolina. Detroit, Michigan. Greensboro, North Carolina, Pasadena, California, Littleton, Colorado, Falls Church, Virginia, Tarzana, California, Inglewood, New Jersey, Stockport, Markham, Ontario, is that? Budapest, South Hadley, Mass, Lakeville, Minnesota, Victoria, Texas, Daphne, Alabama, Bergenfield, New Jersey. And to the ones I didn't get to, the cities, because there was a whole bunch more that I have no way to pronounce. And I talked to a few people. Sometimes I play from my phone, like a correct version of it, but it's the computer voice. And they suggested to me, if you can't do it, don't do it that way. Learn to say the city properly. So to you cities that I could not get to because of my lack of enunciation, I apologize. I'm going to get better at that. But to every solitary one of you who took time out of your life to listen to this show, thank you, because I know it's busy out there. We all have stuff going on. I can't even imagine the stresses of the world, what you might have to be enduring right now. But maybe this is your little oasis, just to shut out the world for a little bit. And if I could do that, if I could provide a little bit of time for you just to escape, then I'm doing everything right. And that's what matters to me. And I'm thankful. But this week's bourbon shout out goes out to two guys, Rick and John. These two guys, they were part of my working life when I first started working. I was a busboy / dishwasher, whatever it was. It was this restaurant at a department store. These two guys were just a blast. And I always remember when I'm going back there, I was doing dishes or just going back, they had the radio cranked. It was just one of those best memories ever. I was 16 years old, surrounded by all these wonderful waitresses, which I'll get into some other day. Okay, but one quick story. As I was doing this episode, speaking of one of those waitresses, I'm still very, very good friends with one of them. So while I was doing this episode, she was texting me about her adventures in Boston. It was her birthday this weekend, and here she was out there with her buddies, just living it up. So I kept getting texts, from her. So a little tip of the cap to her, because we'll always have Lethal Weapon. But that crew of the waitresses were wonderful. But Rick and John, these two guys, they were just so much fun. And I remember sitting back there doing the dishes, steam everywhere, dishes everywhere, cranking tunes. And the ironic part is this. When I was making this show, I was feeling nostalgic just because, memory lane, thinking of the first Top Gun, things of that nature. And I remember sitting back there, they had the Who cranking in the background. And we were all just doing our thing. And the song Won't Get Fooled Again, came on. And the really funny part is that song is in this movie. So if you pay attention, you'll hear in the background when they're playing the jukebox thing, the Who Won't Be Fooled Again comes on. But the memory for me for that song is I'm sitting back there doing my thing. Now, if you're familiar with this song, it's an epic song. It's keyboards and just guitars. It's everything you want in a song. But near the end of the song, you hear almost like this one note of the piano. It's going dun 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 dun. That's a bad imitation. But then at the very end of that, Roger Daltrey just lets out this epic scream. And I remember I'm back there doing dishes, no one's saying a word, but once that part comes up, everybody in the kitchen just screams with Roger Daltrey. So every time I hear that song, I'm 16 years old, I'm doing the dishes, and we all just belt out that yell from Won't Be Fooled Again. So for Rick and John, this is for you. Cheers. But now it's the music section. Most of you know, when I'm making a TV version of this, I have tunes cranking in the background. It just helps me think. Puts me in the mood. This helps me just get my mind focused. And since I was kind of when I was making this, I was, like I told you earlier, doing that little walk down memory lane kind of, type deal. So I go, well, let me just throw down some memories. So I started off with some Dr. Hook. Great songs, of course. Then I went a little bit to the 80s. I threw down some Adam Ant. I don't know if you remember some of the songs, but of course Goody Good, Two Shoes. But then he also had a song Strip. Fun song. But then I, did another little U-turn, went back to the 70s, maybe a little bit early 80s. I have a huge catalog of Kiss. So I just threw down a ton of their stuff. And they got me through so much time when I was growing up. They have great tunes. I even collected their cards. Back in the day, you'd collect the Kiss cards, and on the back of them, they'd have like a design. If you got enough of them, it'd make one giant Kiss sign that looks like it was lit up like from the stage. So I had a blast going down memory lane, listening to a little Kiss. But this show, it really was kicking my butt. I think I edited this one 3 different versions. I tried it this way, tried it that way. It just wasn't flowing. I'm just like, it's just not working. So it was really frustrating. It took me a lot longer than it usually does because I really wanted to do it right. But then I ran into a coworker of mine. She's like my music guru. And she always helps me out, like find different stuff that I don't always listen to. Because if you know me, I kind of keep in the same wheelhouse all the time. I mean, I switch bands, but kind of the same feel. But I was able to catch her in the hallway one day. She's flying just like the wind. But I'm like, hey, tunes, I need tunes. She was okay, I'm on it. And a couple days later, I just ran into her again. I said, tunes. And then when she was up, I got this. And then she texted me a few days later and said, okay, I have some stuff for you. So I broadened my horizons. I stretched it out there. I listened to the band, The New Pornographers. I've heard of the name before, but I hadn't listened to them. So she knows my taste pretty good, and I go, well, I'm going to give them a go. So I threw down several of their albums. And then after that, she got back and hold of me. She goes, what do you think? And I say, yeah, they were really good. But she also told me, check out Nico Case. She's one of the singers for the band that does some solo work. And I go, I really love her voice. So what do you got? So I threw down some of her stuff. And I really enjoyed it. And I was finally able to finish this episode. Because like I said, I really wanted to try to nail it. And I finally was able to do it with a little help from Nico. So thanks, Tammy. I really appreciate your help. Well, that is it. My glass awaits. I'm thirsty. So cheers to you and to the movies. So until next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.